I remember the day before my last. I had to force myself out of bed to eat. But I wasn't even hungry. I was home alone. I tried really hard to distract myself. I even surrounded myself with things that I thought would make me happy. I even had the pen, you know, the one for my sister. I just felt stuck, like I wasn't even in my own body, and I was watching myself from outside of it. I was writing a letter, but I was actually really dreading it. I thought it could help at the time. I mean, in the end, it didn't help. When I finished writing it, it all just felt pointless, honestly. Like that feeling where every little decision would be the wrong decision. I just had to get out. I had to leave the house. So I walked out the front door. I didn't even know where I was going. I walked all the way to the train station. It kind of felt like a blur getting there, and I still felt super out of it. My head was moving slow and fast at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain. I thought playing my favorite song would clear my mind. And of course, the train decides to run late. I couldn't even sit with myself. I couldn't even relax. But I waited anyway. And really not too long after, I eventually just gave up. I just felt like if I kept moving, maybe things would get better. So I just kept walking and walking. I remember actually feeling at peace after a while, once I came across these trees. It reminded me a lot of when I was younger and my mom would take my sister and I to this park by our old house. I'll always love those times. My head started clearing a bit, and I got this feeling of wanting to write more. So while I searched for my pen, I found the letter instead. I remember reading it and feeling this kind of clarity, like I was being put back into my body again. So I decided to keep it. And that's when I finally felt like I was ready. What about you? Do you remember the day before your last?
Yeah, I do. That day, it started in front of my monitor as usual. I was just going through some photos. But I don't even remember what I was looking at anymore. I couldn't even distinguish what was in front of me. All I could tell though is that it felt like I was watching someone else go through the motions, as if they're trying to do anything just to feel something. It was kind of like an out of body experience, but at the same time, it wasn't. As I was going through my daily routine, it felt like everything I was doing was just a grueling list of tasks, and it all felt so heavy I just couldn't shake it off. I remember that I also had my camera on me that day. photos I took, those moments I captured, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel anything from them. They reminded me of all the times that have come and have gone, but as quickly as they came, they all just melted away in my head. That's the thing though, I've always been good with impermanence. We don't get to control the moments. We only get to observe them in whatever way we want. That day I was in my own world, and I recognized that's the only way I knew how. As the day went on though, that feeling didn't really go away. That heavy, unbearable numbness. But despite all that, I remember thinking, at least I got to finish doing something for myself. I got to do something that I loved. And that was pretty much the first half of it. I just knew that day I needed to see Thomas one last time. And after that, honestly, I was good to go. Whenever we met up, we could just really enjoy being in the moment. The car ride.
We did it. We did it. Yeah, I know.
Just acting a fool.
I'm so happy. See, I feel like a proud father right now. Like,
Not worrying about anything.
I only know
Just being ourselves. Just being myself.
I'm starting to do.
Times like those, I end up being reminded of how nice it is just to be able to be, for lack of better words, alive. Just to really feel what's in front of me, to really feel what's happening.
Daylight saver till the next adventure. Love is all around, but you're focused on the frowning rays off.
It didn't matter what we were doing. It didn't matter what we were talking about. It didn't matter where we were, but that feeling of being with someone who you know just sees you for who you are,
I give it a support. I give it
there's just something about that.
a both of them, then sure, well, I'll have to go win some sort of bet. I think so. I think so. Yeah.
We could really be doing anything. We were just in the moment. We lived for that moment. Thomas is that guy that you just know they're always going to be there for you. Not out of obligation, not out of pity, not out of some sort of responsibility, none of that. They're there because they want to be there. They just want to be there with you. There isn't anything more I could ask for.
Oh, God. Yeah. You clearly like her because like a few minutes later.
I don't even remember what we talked about that night. I just knew I wanted to stay there.
Well, that brings us to the last day. It was pretty uneventful for me.
I don't even remember what I did on my last day.
Oh, well, I just went to the park to read by myself. But I remember being annoyed by how busy it was. And after that, I mean, you know the rest. And that was my last day of my past life before our life together.